Professor Venkateswaran, and today's session we are planning to proceed with delegates as well as events, right. Prior to that, we will have a quick review on unit 3. In our unit 3, already we have seen what do you mean by operator overloading, right. And this operator overloading is coming under something called as polymorphism. It is an object oriented programming concept, right. Hope you may be in a position to recollect. There are two things are there, one is called as overloading and something else called as overriding. This has been already stated to you, right. Overloading in the sense you will be having same method name but different argument will be there. If it is going to be overriding, then it is going to be same method name with the same set of arguments will be there. You can realize the usage of overriding when you go with something called as abstract classes as well as inheritance, right. But if you think about the overloading, that could be done without doing something called as inheritance, right. Within a class itself, if you have more than one function with the same name, right, but you can differentiate with the help of the argument pattern or the number of arguments, so that you can achieve something called as method overloading. Similarly, we have something else called as operator overloading. That also we have seen, right. Operator overloading in the sense, I have also listed out what are all the operators which can be overloaded, what are all the operators can't be overloaded, like that we have seen. Actually, what do you mean by operator overloading in the sense, instead of the existing definition or existing functionality to an operator, we are trying to provide something new, then that could be called as operator overloading. That we have seen in detail with various examples, then syntax, likewise what is the need of that, and then how to define an operator overloading, and then we have seen what do you mean by unary operator overloading, binary operator overloading, and then we have seen comparison operator. Everything has been discussed in detail, right. So that you may be in a position to understand the ultimate purpose behind something called as operator overloading as of now, I think so, right. So, as a progress to our third unit, we are proceeding with something else called as delegates and events, right. This is going to be the topic we are going to discuss in our today's session, right. So, here we will be having variety of discussions on what do you mean by delegates, how to declare that, right, and how the methods can be used, right, what do you mean by instantiation, how to invoke it, right. At last it will be end up with how this can be used, that is delegates can be used along with events, right. So, in detail we are going to have the discussion on all these topics. So, what do you mean by a delegate? In our C as well as C++, we might have come across a topic or topic called as pointers, right? We may be familiar with the pointers also. Why do we need pointer? We want to access some memory location. For that reason, we are going with something called as pointers. That we may be aware of that. But later, whatever technologies came into the existence, something like Java or our .NET is concerned, it is these languages are omitting the external or explicit feature called as pointers. What is the justification they are coming up for explicit removal of explicit access or explicit feature of something called as pointers? In the sense, they feel some kind of security lapse is happening. To overcome that, the concept called as pointer has been removed off. In the sense, it is not available as explicit, like how we were doing with something called as C as well as C++. Why I am saying it has been removed as explicit alone? If I am saying something called as it is not explicitly available, that means that it is implicitly available. You may think something like, how I am saying something like this, how I am saying the implicit usage of pointers are available. I can justify how, in the sense, we are having the provision with the help of some functions or with the help of some classes, we are in a position to access a file, right? Likewise, we are performing variety of activities, but all these activities largely involve something called as pointers. But all these functionalities has been implicitly available. You cannot have a direct access to a memory. Instead, the accessing of memory is happening internally with the help of some predefined classes and all. So that they have elevated the security issues which are happening, or they are in a position to overcome the issues which are faced when they were using something called as C and C++ alone as the programming language. So in that tradition, this C# is also following that approach. What is that? The explicit pointer facility is not at all available, right? So here, what do you mean by delegates? That we are supposed to justify. In our C and C++, we had the concept called as function pointer, right? So this delegates is going to act as a replacement or an equivalent technology which is available in our C# to something called as function pointer is nothing but our delegates, right? But what is the another drastic difference between the function pointer as well as delegates, what we are going to discuss is nothing but it is object oriented, right? This is going to be object oriented, and then it is going to be secured as well as type safe options are included, so that we can confidently use something called as delegates, right? Yes, obviously the delegates methods can be used with something called a static method as well as instance methods, right? Low battery. ஆஃப் ஆயிடும் நடுவில். சரி, so delegates can be used with static methods as well as instance method, right? The better way to make use of delegates is going to be making use of the delegate along with something called as events. Actually this when you want to implement or when you want to adapt a concept called as delegate, then you should inherit the features of something called a system.delegate class, right? Fine. You can see the syntax, then example as well as instantiation, all these things are going to be seen in this slide, right? So syntax says that it should start with the keyword called as delegate, then you should find the return type, then you should find the delegate name, and then it should end up with something called as parameter list. So this is going to be the general syntax for declaring something as a delegate. You can see here the access specifier public has been provided, then the keyword delegate has been given, and then as a return type we have stated here as nothing int, it has been stated, right? And then the delegate name, which is going to be my delegate, and then as a part of parameter list we have passed only one object argument, which is nothing but string object, right? So this is going to be a simple example for how a delegate can be. Then instantiation we want to perform. How to do that, right? யார் எங்க தலைவர்? ஏங்க எல்லாருக்கும் தானே கொடுத்தாங்க. சரி, எங்களுக்கெல்லாம் எப்போ கொடுப்பீங்க? வந்திருக்க? சரி சரி, அங்கேருந்தே கண்டினியூ பண்ணட்டுமா? நீங்க செக் பண்ணிக்கணும். ஆனா ஆமா, சரி, நீங்க பார்த்து கட் பண்ணிக்கிறீங்களா? See, we can have a simple example to make you understand how a delegate can be declared, right? it should start with the access specifier, something called as public. It is optional only, right? And then we have a keyword called as delegate should be there, and then followed by the return type as int, and then the delegate name is nothing but my delegate, and then the parameter list is going to be string, right? So like this we are supposed to pass. Okay, fine. Then how an instantiation could be done to a delegate, that we are supposed to understand, right? So you can see here we have the access specifier called as public, then followed by the keyword called as delegate, then the return type is going to be void, and the delegate name is going to be print a string, right? And the argument is going to be string argument. Okay, fine. So like this we have declared, and then the instantiation has to be done. Instantiation is going to be very much similar to the normal instantiation how we are performing for a class. So what is the general syntax for object creation or instantiation creation? Instantiation process, which is going to be class name space object name equal to new class name of, and the required number of arguments will be passed. Here also the instantiation is going to take place for a delegate, which is nothing but print a string, right? Print a string is going to be the delegate name, so we are supposed to create an object for the print string delegate, nothing more. Okay, so what we are trying to do, print a string ps1. ps1 is going to be the print string name. Okay, fine. Then equal to new print string of write to screen, which is going to be a string argument. Then print string ps2 is equal to new print string of write to file, right? So we have created two objects, or two step of instantiation we have done, right? Write to screen as well as write to file are going to be a string object alone. Okay, fine. We can understand this little more better if we go through with a simple example. See here, we want to declare a delegate. So we have started with the keyword called as delegate int number changer, right? This is going to be the delegate name, and it is accepting one argument which is of type integer, right? Then we are creating a class called as test delegate, and then we are declaring a static integer variable with the name called as num, and the value what we are trying to assign is going to be 10. Fine. Then we are creating another static method which is nothing but add num of the type integer, right? It is also accepting one value called as p. That p, whatever we are passing, is going to get added with the static variable called as num, so that you will be in a position to return this num. In the same way, we have something else called as mult num, which is going to be another function, right, which is accepting one argument called as q. This is going to get multiplied with something called as num. So that outcome we are trying to return here, right? So if you simply call this method called as get num, it is going to return the value called as num. Whatever value which are residing in the num can be obtained. When you go with the main function, we are supposed to create an instance. We are supposed to create an instance for the delegate, which is nothing but number changer. So what we are trying to do, number changer space nc1 equal to new number changer of add num. In the same way, we are creating another instance which is nothing but nc2. How we are trying to do is something like number changer space nc2 is equal to new number changer of mult num. Like this, we have declared or we have created instances, and then we are trying to pass an argument called as 25, so that how it has to be called, it has to be called with the help of the object name nc1 of 25. It need not to be 25, whatever you want to provide that could be given. So what will happen, nc1 is pointing out something called as add num, right? So this add num will be called off. It is something like creating an object for test delegate class and calling add num. Whatever action will be done, that will be carried out with the help of this delegate itself. It is something like a pointer to a function, nothing more, right? So you will be in a position to display the outcome if you call something called as get num function, right? So nc2 is pointing out mult num, so that multiplication will be carried out, right? Already the value called as 10 is there, right? Then once you have passed 25, what happened? It has been added, 25 plus 10, 35 is available, right? So if you call nc2 of 5, what will happen? This will be calling the mult num method, right? So you are passing 5 there. So what will happen? The value of existing num is going to be 35, and then we are trying to pass a value called as 5, so that what will happen? The outcome is going to be 175. How it is happening? Because the variable num is of static type, so it will be retaining the value, right? So that what happened, the after the execution of this statement, the value of num is going to be 35. So if you call nc2 of 5, what will happen? It will be multiplying and the final outcome is going to be 175. Like that the outcome will be obtained. So with this example you may be in a position to understand how a delegate can point to a function, right? So we have another feature, or we have some more features which are nothing but multicasting, which could also be done, right? So with the help of plus symbol we can perform something called as combining could be done, right? And with the help of minus operator we have the provision for removing that also. If I say something called as combining and then removing and all, you may not be in a position to understand, but when we go with some example, then you will be in a position to understand it. So I will proceed with something called as an example for this multicasting. You can see here we are creating a delegate, right, of the type integer, then the delegate name is going to be number changer with only one argument in it, right? Then you can find a static method of the type integer, and the static method name is going to be add num we are simply adding and then returning the num. In the same way, for mult num, we are performing the multiplication, right? The value q, the value which is residing in the variable q will be multiplied with num, and then the final outcome will be returned off. So if you call simply this get num, you will be in a position to obtain the value which is storing or which is stored in the num variable can be obtained, right? We are proceeding further with the main method. Here we are simply creating a reference alone, something like this: number changer NC. Number changer NC is going to be the object reference. Then we have two more instances we are trying to create. This is also quite similar to our last example what we have seen, but where you can find the variation in the sense from this step onwards, right? So here what we are trying to do, NC is equal to NC1, so that what will happen, the properties of NC1 will be assigned to NC, right? And then what we are trying to do, we want to combine or we want to add up the value which is residing in NC2 with NC itself. So we are proceeding with something called as assignment operator. Hope you may be in a position to recollect what do you mean by assignment operator, right? So whatever operator which are nothing but plus equal to, minus equal to, star equal to, division equal to, all these things are collectively called as assignment operator, right? Here we are following the approach called as NC plus equal to NC2, and then we are calling the multicast with the help of NC of 5. Like that, if you are pausing, what will happen? You can see the outcome. The outcome is going to be 75. How come this 75? We may have the serious question with us. We'll try to trace out how it is happening. See, NC plus equal to NC2, like that if you have done, what will happen? You are trying to perform addition operation first, and then you want to perform multiplication operation also. So what will happen? There are two operations are going to happen. One is going to be add num. So already existing value of num is going to be 10, and then the value received is nothing but 5. So 10 plus 5, 15 will be there. At last, what is happening? NC plus equal to NC2, like that we have provided, so that what will happen? We will be having the provision for performing the multiplication. So 15 plus into 5, which is nothing but 75. That is going to be the outcome. Right now you may be in a position to understand what do you mean by multicasting of a delegate. That is, more than one operations can be there. You want to perform something based on the prior activity what we have done. So this may help you in understanding how to perform the multicasting of a delegate. Then at last we are here to think about how to make use of the delegate as a part of an event, right? So the first statement, that is first two statements represents making use of the namespaces. Then we have the class called as print string, which is available with us, right? Then we are creating an object instance for file stream class, which is nothing but fs, right? And then we are proceeding further by creating another object for stream writer, right? So SW is going to be the object of stream writer. So once you have done these two declaration part, we should think about how to declare, right? How to declare a delegate, that we are supposed to think of. So we are doing something like write to screen a method has been called. Prior to that, we should think about how a delegate can be declared, right? Something like delegate void print string, right? So we have declared a delegate, and then we are calling a method called as write to screen, and we are passing an argument called as string, right? And then you can write the, or you can see the definition of that function. Write to file has been written something like this, right? We are creating an object for file stream, and the argument something like message.txt, and the file mode has been opened as append mode, and then we want to write it. All these options or arguments has been stated for this file stream class, right? And then we are creating an object for stream writer. This file stream is going to get passed as an argument to this. With the help of that, you will be in a position to call a method called as writeLine, and whatever argument you are passing here, which is going to be written into this message.txt. That's what happening in our method called as write to file. Then we have another method called as write to screen. With the help of this method, already we have seen we are in a position to display that. Then we are coming up with one more method, which is nothing but send string. This is obtaining the object of print string. Then we are trying to display this, nothing more. So it is going to be something like calling the print string object, and the argument what we are trying to pass is nothing but hello world, right? So this is going to be the syntax for creating an option, right? PS1, PS2 are two instances we are creating for the delegate, and then we are passing PS1 as well as PS2 as arguments for send string method, right? So that hello world will be getting called, and then it will be getting displayed, right? And then in our message.txt we will be storing that content also. All these functionalities are happening here. We have another possibility for creation, something called as array of delegates. We know that delegates are going to be similar to our objects, right? So in our prior lectures, we have seen how an object array can be created, right. In the similar way, we have the provision for creating array of delegates also. You can see here, right, add method is there, which is going to add two things, and in the same way multiplication method is going to perform the multiplication activity between A as well as B, and then we have a class called as program, right. Here only we are creating an object for that is delegate declaration is happening. Once we have done so, we will go for creating object array here, right. Object array we are trying to do. See here del op, which is nothing but the delegate name, del op, and obj is going to be the del array, that is array of objects or array of delegates. Here we are providing the object creation for two methods. Since this add as well as multiple method are of static type, we are trying to refer with the help of class name. So class name dot method name we have specified, operation dot add we have given, in the same way operation dot multiple we have given. If it is going to be a non-static method, then obviously we should go with creation of object for this operation class, and with the help of that object we are supposed to call, or we are supposed to specify the add method here, okay. And then what is our next job? We want to call or we want to make use of this. So what we are trying to do, we are passing two arguments, 2, 5. These two things are going to be arguments for both add as well as multiple method. So first it will be calling the add method. So 2, 5. What is the outcome of 2 plus 5, which is going to be 7, which has been displayed here. The same way 8 plus 5, 13 has been displayed here. 4 plus 6, 10 has been displayed here. Next it will be calling the multiplication activity. So 2 into 5, which will be providing the outcome as 10, right. Then 8 into 5, it will be displaying 40 as the outcome, and 4 into 6, which is going to return 24 as the outcome. So in this way, what will happen? The array of delegates can be used, right. So how this can be used with events? We may be knowing what do you mean by an event. Event is nothing but an activity which we are triggering, right. It could be anything. It is something like key press event, mouse click event, like that. We have variety of events are there. Any one of the event can be called. In the same way, here also we are going to make use of the delegates as a part of event, right. It will be following an approach called as publisher subscriber model, right. It is going to follow that model. Publisher class which will be publishing the event, and subscriber class which is going to accept the event. Like this alone the things will be going on, right. Publisher is going to invoke the event and notify others. What about the subscriber? Which is going to accept the events and it will be handling them, right. As I told you earlier, this one is events will be following the publisher subscriber model, right. We are going to have a syntax or an example for how to proceed with something called as delegates with events, and then we are going to have a full-fledged example that will make you understand how to proceed further, right. So here we are declaring an event, right. So how it is going to be done? Public, delegate, string, these things you may be knowing, access specifier, delegate keyword, return type, then the delegate name, followed by the argument list. This one which is very much familiar to us since we have seen various examples on this. Fine. Then how it is going to be integrated along with the events, in the sense we are trying to specify something like event, the keyword event, then the delegate name followed by what? This method what we want to call, that should be expressed. So you can understand very well on how this can be used along with the events with one simple example. A full-fledged example is going to be there. See here, we are creating a namespace called a sample app. We have the delegate with us, which is nothing but my del, right? Event program is going to be the class name, right? And then we want to specify something as an event, right? So the keyword event should be there, followed by the delegate name, followed by the event name, which is nothing but my event, right? So we have another constructor for this class called as event program. So in it, this dot my event plus equal to new my del of this dot welcome user. Like this we are writing, right? So this means that you want to call a method called as welcome user. In it what is happening? An argument, whatever you are specifying, which is going to be passed, and it will be returning a concatenated string, which is nothing but welcome, then the argument what we have passed. Assume that we are passing the value called as students, so it will be returning it as welcome students, right? So when you go with the main method, here we have provided something like the class name followed by the object name equal to new class name of, then string result, which is going to be the string object, and then my event is an event we are trying to call with the help of this object obj1.myEvent of students. If you have specified, what will happen? This will be mapping with my event and then this my del, then it will be calling this welcome user, and the value students has been passed, then it has been returned it as welcome students. So right now you may be in a position to understand how a delegate can be used along with or as a part of event, how it could be used. So with this we are concluding our today's session, and we'll meet with some other examples or real-time scenarios and all is going to be the topic in our next session, right? Thank you, students.